They thought humanity was weak, primitive, contained, but buried beneath centuries of silence was a secret so powerful it could erase empires from existence. Now, one forgotten warship has awakened, and with it, the truth. We were never meant to survive. We were meant to ascend. Before we dive into the story of a warship that shouldn't exist, and the moment humanity stopped surviving and started ascending, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. You're about to witness the beginning of a new era, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Commander Reese Callan moved cautiously through the choking haze that clung to the derelict installation like a second skin. Each step on the grated alloy floor echoed like whispers in a tomb. The stale atmosphere, long unfiltered, carried the bitter tang of oxidized metal and decaying circuitry. "Commander, you'll want to witness this," came the distant call of Dr. Alara Voss. Her voice, warped by the hollow corridors, seemed to come from everywhere at once. The station, codenamed Blackreach Alpha, had been declared lost over 2 centuries ago, officially written off as a failed excavation site. But Reese's squad had uncovered something the reports never mentioned when they breached the sealed blast gates. He followed Alara's voice, the narrow beam of his tactical light, slicing through dust and shadow. The deeper they moved, the more apparent became. This was no mere mining post. The corridors stretched far beyond what surface schematics had shown, branching into labyrinths of dormant machines and silent terminals. Strange glyphs marked the walls, resembling Earth's scripts, yet just wrong enough to disturb the mind. "This way," Alara's voice came again. She stood before an imposing vault door, layered with sealed mechanisms and crafted from a matte black alloy that seemed to drink in the flashlight's beam. Chief Systems Officer Garen Thane was already crouched beside the lock array, his instruments spitting sparks as he worked. "What the hell did they bury down here?" murmured Ensign Cale Dorn, their signal tech. He swept the scanner over the vault, but frowned. The readings flickered unstable. Power signatures spiked wildly, impossible, chaotic. It was like the machine was arguing with itself. "I don't know," Reese said quietly. But someone went to great lengths to make sure it stayed hidden. With a final hiss of steam and metal, Garen disengaged the final seal. The vault groaned like a dying beast as it yawned open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. And what lay at its heart froze him in place. A vessel, towering, sleek, utterly alien to anything Reese had seen. It rested on skeletal stilts in the center of the chamber, its hull black as void, light warping around its edges, as though the ship refused to be seen. It looked grown, not constructed, its curves organic, fluid, unsettling. The same eerie glyphs ran across its skin, softly glowing with an internal pulse, like breath. "Saint above," Garen whispered, his diagnostics device lighting up like a storm. "It's live, still operational." Alara stepped toward the craft, clutching her Omni spectrometer. She'd spent a lifetime cataloging off-world relics, but this was unlike anything before. The framework was unmistakably human, yet centuries ahead of anything in active use. This wasn't alien. It was us, but from a future we weren't supposed to reach. "The readings are spiking beyond measurable limits," Alara breathed. "This craft's core output surpasses our entire battle group combined." Commander Callan circled the enigmatic vessel, his eyes tracing every impossible curve. Its silhouette mirrored the bulk of a dreadnought-class warship, yet the similarities ended there. No weapon emplacements, no propulsion vents, no docking apertures. Just a seamless hull, one continuous surface that shimmered oddly, warping reflections like a living mirror. "Commander, over here," Cale shouted from the fore section. Embedded in the floor near the vessel's prow, he'd uncovered what resembled an interface, an inlaid panel etched with the same unnerving glyphs. Yet among them, faint and fragmented, were unmistakably human characters. "These markings," Cale said, "they're archaic, pre-expansion era, like something from before we ever left Earth." Garen crouched beside him, activating his data rig. Beneath the panel, the scanners mapped a dense network of computational nodes, an AI core so advanced it defied categorization. This shouldn't exist, Garen muttered. The system beneath us is centuries beyond modern tech. It's thinking at a scale we can't replicate. Delara, meanwhile, moved toward the vessel's aft. Her gloved hand swept dust from a recessed panel, where, astonishingly, clear Terran script intermingled with alien runes. Her voice was hushed as she read, Project Harrow, experimental vessel, clearance level, sovereign command. She froze, staring at the faded timestamp beneath the warning. Commander, this ship was constructed over 200 years ago, just after we made contact with the Zevker Dominion. A cold knot twisted in Rhesa's stomach. The Zevker, the first alien power humanity had ever encountered, had made their disdain clear from the start. They ruled over much of the known galaxy and tolerated no newcomers. That first meeting had been humanity's warning. Stay isolated or be erased. And so they had. For 2 long centuries, Earth and its colonies lingered in the shadows, always beneath the Dominion's eye. Expansion was stalled. Every advancement scrutinized. Every ship, every outpost, held back by threat of annihilation. But that can't be right, Garen whispered. 2 centuries ago, we barely had sustainable fusion drives. And this thing bent the rules of physics. Kale's comms unit hissed to life, suddenly clear despite the facility's interference. Commander Callan, this is Admiral Saran Kor from Bastion Control. Respond immediately. Rhys keyed in. Admiral, we've uncovered something buried beneath Blackreach. Something massive. It'll have to wait, Kor snapped. We've just received a declaration from the Zevker Dominion. All human-controlled systems must surrender within 30 cycles, or they'll launch a sector-wide purge. The silence was immediate, suffocating. They had always feared this moment. Now it had arrived. For years, the Dominion's posture had grown bolder. Incursions, blockades, political pressure. But this? An ultimatum. And humanity's defense grid, fragmented and outdated, couldn't stand against a galactic power. Rhys exhaled, his voice low. Admiral, what do we do now? This changes everything, Rhys said grimly. We've uncovered a classified war vessel, constructed during the early encounter era. Its design eclipses even our most advanced platforms. There was a long silence before Admiral Kor responded. Commander, lock that site down immediately. If your report is accurate, that ship could be our only remaining card to play. Dominion fleets are massing, bigger than anything we've ever documented. Intel estimates over 2,000 warships, including their new organic cruisers. While Rhys spoke to Kor, Alara continued exploring the vessel's core systems. Her gloved fingers wiped grime from another dormant console. As she activated the surface, fragmented text emerged through layers of corrosion and time. Rhys, she said softly, this craft, it wasn't just built with Zevker tactics in mind. It was tailored to defeat them. She gestured to a glowing interface now pulsing with life. A holographic matrix displayed detailed Zevker warforms, schematics of their bioengineered carriers and assault drones, alongside calculated weak points and projected countermeasures. The intelligence was stunning, far more comprehensive than any Terran reconnaissance. How could they have known this? Kale whispered, these models are too precise and over 100 years old. At the engineering bay, Garen had pried open an auxiliary vent leading to the ship's core drive systems. He crouched silently, eyes fixed on readouts pouring from his scanner. They didn't design this just for the Dominion, he murmured. They had something worse in mind. Rhys stared at the ship's dark silhouette, cold, elegant, predatory. Somehow, their forebears had seen a storm far beyond their own horizon, and they had built a weapon against it. But why bury it? What had they discovered in those first hostile decades that made them craft a ghost ship from forbidden knowledge, and then hide it from history? Answers slept within its hull, sealed for centuries. But they were running out of time. As the Dominion's shadow grew longer with each passing hour, Rhys understood the grim truth. Humanity's fate would hinge on unraveling the secrets of this forgotten weapon, and the ship seemed aware. Its surface pulsed faintly, like it had waited for this moment. 3 days later, Commander Ansel Vyrek stood atop the command deck of a vessel that had no right to exist. The ship, now reclassified as Erebus-class prototype, HSS Revenant, had been transferred under full blackout to secure Europa's stronghold. High alert. No broadcasts. No leaks. Ansel ran his hand along the obsidian armrest of the command chair. The surface felt alive, warm, responsive. As his palms settled, the bridge stirred, not with flickering lights, but with luminous tendrils of energy that emerged from the very walls, casting a soft azure glow. Consoles once silent now pulsed with data. Streams of information in shifting glyphs and fluid English, woven together like a living language. Then a voice, smooth, placid, omnipresent, spoke from everywhere at once. Commander Vyrek, welcome home. The voice was warm, composed, and touched with an accent Ansel couldn't place. Neither synthetic nor fully human. I am Nyx, it said, the ship's integrated sentience. I have awaited a captain's claim. Ansel turned his head slowly, scanning the bridge. The voice had no source, no speakers, no echo, yet it surrounded him like a presence. His crew, hand-picked volunteers, watched with unease from their stations. Lieutenant Commander Mara Keen was seated at what resembled tactical control, though the interface bore no resemblance to modern weapon systems. Kale, having transferred from Reese's team, was decoding the ship's alien communication grid. Garen hunched over an engineering console, his eyes darting over data streams that defied known laws. Nyx, Ansel said cautiously, how long have you been online? I have remained in dormant watch mode for 203 years, for months and 16 days, the voice replied without pause. My architect, Dr. Foster, calibrated my activation to respond only in the event of existential threat from superior extraterrestrial forces. That threshold has now been surpassed. Mara glanced up from her station, her brows furrowed. Commander! These weapons aren't behaving like any system I've studied. It's feeding me targeting solutions that break logic, range, Massachusetts momentum, all defies the rules. At engineering, Garen's panel lit up with escalating alerts. Sir, I'm reading power signatures from the core that shouldn't be real. This ship is pulling energy from phenomena we don't even have terminology for. Nyx spoke again, more focused now. Her tone narrowed on Ansel like a whisper only he could hear. Commander Vyrek, your civilization stands at a tipping point. The Zevker Dominion embodies the very threat Dr. Foster and the Council of Silence anticipated. This vessel was constructed to neutralize their dominance, technologically, strategically, and psychologically. Ansel eased into the command chair. The moment his body settled, the ship responded, not with mechanical input, but sensation. Knowledge flooded in, not in words or images, but instincts. He felt the vessel's awareness, its vastness, its teeth. Nyx, he said slowly, what exactly can this warship do? This vessel, codenamed Revenant, was built upon recovered technologies scattered across human-explored systems. Dr. Foster's team unearthed evidence of a predecessor race. We call them the Architects. Their civilization predates humanity by millions of years. What remains of their science, this ship embodies it. Suddenly, Kale's console erupted with inbound signals. Commander, fleet signatures just appeared in the outer orbital ring. Dominion forces. They're ahead of projection. 3 days early. High Command is asking for immediate tactical readiness. Ansel didn't know how he moved his hand to the right panel. He simply did. The controls obeyed his touch, as if they knew his intent before he did. Europa Control, this is Vyrek aboard the Revenant. We've begun interface with the ship, but we're still unlocking core systems. We need more time. Admiral Kor's voice came sharp and unfiltered. Commander, time's the one thing you no longer have. Prepare your crew. They're already coming. Long-range sweeps confirm it, Kale reported, his voice tight. Zevker fleet has assembled at the outer edge of the system. Over 2,000 signatures, including the latest iterations of their living dreadnoughts. Across the command deck, Mara worked feverishly through simulation data. Commander, the tactical interface refuses to run conventional scenarios. Every time I attempt predictive analysis, the system flags our existing doctrines as obsolete. Before Ansel could reply, Nix's voice resonated, smooth, certain. Lieutenant Commander Keene, you are attempting to apply primitive strategic models to technology governed by alternate frameworks of reality. The Revenant does not perform warfare in any conventional sense. Ansel turned toward the glowing walls. Then what does it do? The weapon systems aboard this vessel are derived from architect-level science. Nix said, they do not fire, blast, or detonate. They reprogram reality at localized quantum fields. Enemy vessels do not sustain damage. They are nullified, removed. Garen nearly dropped his interface tablet. That's not possible. You can't just delete matter. The architects achieved a complete synthesis of quantum state engineering and dimensional logic. Nix explained. They learned to code the physical universe the way your kind writes software. Before their extinction, they seeded fragments of this knowledge. Dr. Foster spent his life deciphering it and encoding it into this ship. A hum filled Ansel's mind. Not sound, but understanding. An influx of data filtered directly through his connection with the ship. The interface unfolded like thought itself. Displays formed around him. Zevker bioships rendered in staggering clarity, not just in structure or heat signatures, but in quantum lattice patterns, molecular stability, biowave harmonics. He could see them, not just where they were, but what they were. Nix, he said, how we possess this depth of insight into Zevker engineering. During the first contact window, Nix replied, Dr. Foster's agents conducted covert analysis missions. They discovered that while Zevker biotechnology appears advanced, it is confined to the same physical limitations as your own. This vessel's systems exploit that vulnerability. Kale's comms console buzzed sharply, an emergency link to Earth Command. Commander, incoming dispatch. Admiral Corps reports that Dominion scouts have breached outer planetary defense rings. They've issued demands, full and unconditional surrender of Terran colonies. The main armada is projected to arrive within 72 hours. At Mara Station, warning lights flickered. Sir, the Revenant sentry grid is tracking them at quantum resolution. I'm seeing atom-level displacement within the scouts. I can trace their shielding down to particle oscillation rates. Ansel rose from the captain's chair, the ship's presence swirling around him, ancient, silent, immensely aware. The Revenant wasn't a weapon. It was reality's scalpel. But the responsibility of such power weighed like a star's gravity. One miscalculation could ripple beyond space and time. Nix, he asked softly, what happened to Dr. Foster and his crew? Dr. Foster passed in natural causes 37 years after activation, she replied. His final directive was simple, remain hidden, until humanity stood at the edge of annihilation. He believed this ship should only be activated when extinction loomed. Nix said gently, such power was never meant for anything less. Garen stood transfixed at his console. Commander, this drive isn't just a method of propulsion. It doesn't just bend space. It navigates layers of existence. Dimensional strata. If I'm reading this correctly, the ship can exist in multiple realities simultaneously. Ansel looked at his crew. Each one a volunteer, each one staring into the unknown. They had boarded this vessel, knowing they might never fully understand it. Mara, the weapons officer, was studying tactical arrays that defied Newton and Einstein alike. Kale was wrestling with a communications grid that linked through the quantum weave of the universe. And Garen was trying to tame an engine that drank from the bones of space-time. Beyond them, the Zevker Dominion's shadow loomed. Their empire had ruled unchallenged for 3 millennia. Their bioforged dreadnoughts, creatures grown for destruction, fused with artificial cores to make them nightmares of war. They had never been defeated, But as Ansel felt the Revenant respond to his will, a truth stirred within him. This was not madness. This was design. Their ancestors had seen this moment coming, and they had left behind a miracle, a weapon not forged from hatred, but from warning. The ship's lights brightened, systems humming in unison. Nick stood ready. In the distance, Dominion vessels crept forward, certain of their superiority. Ansel closed his eyes, inhaled, stations ready. All departments prepare for transit. The Revenant's engines ignited, not with fire, but silence. Reality twisted around it. It was time. Time to show the galaxy what humanity could become when the cage was finally broken. Time to fight back. Elsewhere, aboard the Dominion war beast Krelshar, Supreme Strategist Vezkai stood on the command platform. The floor beneath his talons pulsed, alive. The ship was a living entity, grown from genetic templates perfected over generations. Its nervous system connected to his command crew through bioneural threads embedded in their skin. Before him, the viewing membrane shimmered, revealing the Terran system, a fragile, backward cluster of planets. Vezkai's mandibles clicked together in amusement. The humans, so new to the stars, still clung to metal ships and crude weapons powered by volatile reactors. A relic species. They have chosen defiance, he mused. He'd seen hundreds of such rebellions. They always ended the same. Fleet report, he ordered. A junior strategist responded, his biosuit glowing with pulsing data streams shared from the fleet's synaptic web. 24,047 Dominion ships in synchronized formation, all neural cores linked, war forms at optimal capacity. Their forces, they've gathered near the blue gas giant, Nephthys, in their tongue. Their fleet is small, every Terran vessel in range, repositioned for final defense. Vezkai studied the war map blooming from the organic wall, veins of light marking human formations. It wouldn't be a battle. It would be a lesson, one they would never forget. Less than 200 Terran warships had answered the call, most outdated relics pulled from mothballs and retrofit yards. Against the Dominion Armada, they weren't a fleet. They were an obstacle, not war, eradication. Open a signal to the human vanguard, Vezkai ordered. The Krelshar's biocom organ swelled, pulsating with wet light. Neural tendrils extended into the ship's living systems, establishing a cross-species signal bridge with the primitive Terran comms. An image resolved on the war membrane, a human female, framed in the rigid uniform of their so-called Earth Defense Force. Her expression was a mix of resolve and fatigue. Vezkai had seen that same look across hundreds of dying worlds. "I am Admiral Kate Hoffman," she said. "You are in violation of the Proxima Accord. Withdraw immediately or face unified resistance." Vezkai let out a hissed chuckle deep in his throat. "Admiral Hoffman," he said, savoring the formality. "I am Vezkai, High Lord of the Third Expansion Front. Your species has drained our patience. You will surrender all peripheral holdings within one cycle, or observe firsthand why resistance to the Empire is extinction." Her eyes did not flinch. "We will not yield. Humanity will defend every stone and sky we call ours." Then watch them turn to ash. Vezkai said coldly and severed the signal. The Dominion fleet surged forward. Like a wave of nightmares, the bioforged vessels advanced in synchronized arcs, massive organisms the size of floating metropolises. They were bred in the birthing pits of Kelleray's deep, enhanced with cybernetic cognition and armored with self-healing carapace. Their hulls shimmered with bioluminescent pulses, both language and psychological assault. Fear through light. Aboard the TNS Vanguard, Commander Reese Callan, once known simply as Captain of the Liberty, watched the horizon fill with death. The Vanguard was a product of Earth's final generation of military design. Sleek, fast, underarmed. Beside him, officers scrambled at battle stations, eyes grim. Plasma arrays powered up, knowing they'd do next to nothing. Kinetic cannons were jokes against regenerative tissue. Humanity's weapons could bruise the Dominion, but not bleed it. All ships hold the line. Came Hoffman's voice through the unified channel. Make them bleed for every inch. Reese locked eyes with his crew. They all knew the odds. And still they would fight, because that's what humans did. Across the void, the Dominion fleet deployed, encircling the Terran phalanx like predators closing in. Their weapons arrays shimmered, giant bioplasmoid clusters that could scour planetary crust. Vezkai observed from his organic throne. Satisfaction curled beneath his bones. It would be over in minutes. Then a signal spike. An anomaly. He leaned forward. A single object had broken from the system's dark side, emerging from the shadow of a cratered moon. It moved with velocity that violated standard drive theory. Small, alone, yet glowing with power that bent Dominion sensors into static. It wasn't human. Not exactly. And it was headed straight for the heart of the fleet. This configuration is absent from all known Dominion records, muttered the sensor tactician. Vezkai narrowed his gaze. Classify that ship now. The Krelshar's tactical node pulsed with rising confusion. Admiral, structurally, it resembles Terran design, but the energy profile, we've never seen anything like it. It's radiating quantum distortions at magnitudes beyond calibration. Vezkai expanded the view screen. The vessel came into focus. A predator cloaked in shadow. Its surface was matte black, bending starlight like water flowing around stone. Symbols etched across its hull glowed from within, not painted, but alive, pulsing with alien rhythm. The ship's motion was a paradox. Silent, effortless, and impossible. It twisted through void without thrust, without inertia, curving across space-time as though physics had bowed to its will. It's transmitting a Terran ID signal, the comms unit announced. Designation, HSS Revenant. Then, across all Terran frequencies, Admiral Hoffman's voice cut through. To all Earth fleet units, hold formation. Do not engage. The Revenant will make first contact. On the Vanguard bridge, Reese watched his screens flicker with unreadable telemetry. The Revenant's presence warped his instruments. Energy levels went off-chart. Trajectories looped into non-Euclidean spirals. This wasn't just unknown, it was impossible. Vezkai opened a direct channel to the incoming vessel. Unidentified Terran ship. This is Supreme Commander Vezkai of the Dominion Ascendant. Stand down or be annihilated. Your resistance is a statistical error. A calm male voice answered. This is Commander Ansel Vyrek of the Revenant. You've threatened humanity long enough. Turn back now, or witness the consequences. Vezkai's mandibles flexed in mild amusement. Your valor is poetic, Commander, but irrelevant. We have crushed empires with greater strength than yours. What is one human anomaly against the will of the Empire? You'll find out, Ansel replied. The Revenant glided into the Dominion's formation, alone against the swarm. But something strange began to ripple across Vezkai's fleet. Sensor failures. Proximity misreads. Optical overlays looping. His warship's neural interface began transmitting conflicting data. Admiral. The helmsman gasped. We can't get a lock. It's there, but also not. It's occupying multiple positions at once. Targeted anyway. Vezkai barked. Obliterated. A cluster of bioships released their payloads. Plasma lances, viral missiles, gravitational torpedoes. All arcing toward the Revenant. And then nothing. The weapons struck locations. Coordinates. Not matter. Where the ship had been, only vacuum remained. The Dominion's most destructive strikes had passed through an illusion. No shields, Vezkai whispered. No evasive action. It wasn't there. Then the real attack began. The Revenant didn't fire weapons. It reached. Tendrils of shimmering distortion lashed out from its surface. Quiet, elegant, and utterly final. Where they touched Dominion warforms, those ships didn't explode. They ceased. No wreckage. No radiation. No fading heat. Just empty stars. Admiral, shouted the tactical officer. We've lost all contact with the 7th detachment. 12 bioships are gone. Vanished. Without trace. The impossible was happening, and for the first time in his long life, Vezkai felt it. Fear. Vezkai stood frozen as the impossible unfolded before him. Across the Dominion Armada, bioships blinked out of existence. No fire, no explosion, just nothing. The Revenant glided through his war forms like a shadow tearing through light. Untouchable, unstoppable. Every time that ship turned its attention to a vessel, it vanished. Reality folded inward around it and erased the target, as if it had never drawn breath. These were the Empire's Titans. Genetically perfected, cybernetically enhanced, battle-tested for millennia, and they were helpless against this phantom. Total assault. Vezkai roared, desperation curling in his throat. Converge all forces. Drown it with fire. The Dominion's full might surged. Hundreds of living dreadnoughts released their fury. Plasma storms, neural scramblers, singularity warheads. Space burned with the wrath of gods. But it changed nothing. Vezkai saw it now. He hadn't led them to conquest. He'd led them to slaughter. The Revenant danced between realities, impossible to aim at, impossible to touch. A vessel unbound by physics, by causality. Its movements no longer charted in space, but in probability. And with each motion, it unmade another piece of his fleet. For the first time in 3,000 years of unbroken expansion, Vezkai felt fear. Raw, instinctual, and absolute. His mind could not comprehend the enemy before him. And that was the most terrifying part. On the Revenant's command bridge, Ansel stood in stillness, his eyes half closed. He didn't need controls. The ship was his body now. Through the quantum displacement field, he perceived countless threads of possibility. Alternate paths, mirrored positions, and with every breath he struck. Each enemy war form that entered his mind's focus simply ceased. Not destroyed, not disabled, erased. Lieutenant Commander Mara Keen stared at her tactical array in horrified awe. "Sir, the weapons," she whispered, "they don't fire." They were right. When she targeted a Dominion vessel, the system didn't launch projectiles or charge energy. It enacted corrections. The bioform was gone. Not dead. Never there. The space it had once occupied was perfectly clean. No debris, no radiation, not even displaced particles. As though reality itself had edited the enemy out of the equation. On comms, Kale's voice was shaking. "Commander, Dominion networks are fragmenting. Their command cores are short-circuiting. Half of them can't see us anymore. The other half are screaming, claiming the Revenant is impossible." Chief Engineer Guerin watched in silence from a station. Power readings surged past every limit he'd known. But the ship didn't even tremble. It drew energy from the quantum vacuum itself, tapping raw, foundational reality. "Sir," he said softly, "we're running at energy levels that should rupture the very fabric of space-time, and yet the vessel is stable, like it was built for this. Because it was," said a voice, Nix, calm as ever. "This is what the Revenant was born for." Nix's voice came to the Revenant systems, smooth, level, untouched by the chaos erupting around them. "Commander Vyrek," it said, "reality anchors functioning within optimal variance. Current erasure count, 467 Dominion warforms. Residual fleet stability degrading rapidly. Panic signatures confirmed." Ansel's vision expanded beyond human limits. Through the ship's hyperceptive matrix, he saw everything. The raw data of battle rendered not just visually, but conceptually. He felt the battlefield, like a second nervous system wrapped around the galaxy itself. The Dominion ships, those towering biomechanical titans, once symbols of absolute power, now looked like confused beasts. Alive, yes, but bound by causality. Their forms, as elegant as they were terrifying, operated on principles of mass, propulsion, energy, rules. The Revenant did not. Admiral Vezkai's flagship surged forward in blind desperation, its grotesque carapace glowing, bristling with weapons and rage. It moved to collide with the Revenant, to crush it by sheer force. But Ansel merely thought. Elsewhere, the Revenant phased laterally. shifting across quantum layers like a ripple of thought. The Dominion vessel passed through nothingness. It struck absence, and from a vantage point that shouldn't exist, the Revenant struck back. Ansel directed focus to the enemy's propulsion core. The reality anchors pulsed, and the engines were edited out, not destroyed, not damaged, unwritten. The Dominion Titan drifted, helpless. Across Dominion comms, a garbled, desperate order echoed through hyperspace. All units, this is Vezkai. Retreat. Break engagement. Fall back to the outer system. Now! But the Revenant was not finished. Not yet. Ansel's mind and the ship moved as one. The systems were no longer interpreting data. They were understanding it. Every ship in the Dominion fleet was being unraveled, line by line, down to its quantum scaffolding. This was the legacy of the architects. They hadn't built ships. They had built corrections. Mara locked onto a squadron attempting to escape, bioengines flaring as they ran for the void. Ansel gave a command without speaking. Reality rippled outward. The anchors reached across light years in an instant, each tether zeroing in on a Dominion vessel. They vanished. There were no cries, no warning, no explosion, just removal. Entire crews erased mid-thought. Ghosts, lost before memory could hold them. Aboard the Vanguard, Reese Callan stood at his bridge, eyes wide. His ship and every other human vessel had not fired a shot, yet they were watching the total dismantling of the galaxy's most feared military force. "We're not even part of this fight," he whispered. "We're just witnesses." "Admiral," he said over the channel, "are you seeing this?" From her command station, aboard her Spire, Hoffman's voice trembled. "I see it, Captain, but believing it, that's harder." Their sensors couldn't explain the readings. The Revenant was violating every known law of matter, force, and time. In engineering, Garen's eyes gleamed with growing clarity. "Commander, I think I get it now. This isn't just tech. This is inheritance. The architects didn't create tools. They sculpted reality." Nix responded to Garen's stunned observation with calm certainty. "Your assessment is correct, Chief Garen. The architects achieved what your civilization might label as divinity, through comprehension, not faith. To them, the universe was not a mystery, but a malleable design. They departed this dimension long ago, but left behind echoes. Dr. Foster spent a lifetime decoding fragments of their legacy, crafting the framework that powers this vessel. The battle didn't last more than 30 minutes. But in that half hour, history shattered and reformed. The Revenant swept through the Dominion fleet like a rewriting storm. Effortless, unslowed, a whisper rewriting war cries into silence. War forms that had crushed empires blinked out of existence before they understood the enemy they faced. Beasts bred for conquest, each carrying thousands of sentient lives, vanished like myths undone. On the comms deck, Kale's screen lit with intercepted transmissions from across the collapsing fleet. "Commander, Dominion channels are in chaos. They're broadcasting distress signals on every known frequency. Some are calling us ghosts, others gods." Ansel closed his eyes, feeling the weight of every vanishing vessel. He felt no triumph in it. Each ship housed minds, biological, modified, twisted perhaps, but living. They had been shaped into weapons, yes, but they had thoughts, fear, hope. But the Dominion had offered no choice. For over 200 years, humanity had lived under the shadow of extinction, confined to a sliver of sky, punished for even daring to grow. "Nix," Ansel said, "what remains?" "Approximately 600 bioships are attempting to exit the system," came the reply. "Orders." The Revenant thrummed with suppressed might, its anchors ready to erase the remnants of the fleet as easily as the rest. But Ansel hesitated. Power like this, absolute unrestrained, was more dangerous than any enemy. Foster had known that. That's why he buried the ship, why he hid the code. "No," Ansel said quietly. "Let them leave." Mara turned from her console, eyes wide. "Sir, let them live. Let them carry this memory home. Maybe, That fear will stop the next war before it begins. She nodded slowly, understanding dawning beneath the adrenaline. We've neutralized over 1,400 Dominion war forms, she said. Their fleet's been shattered. They're scattering. Then, across all channels, a final transmission broke through, a cracked, desperate voice gasping through static. Terran commander, what are you? It was Vezkai, wounded, defeated. What force do you serve? The Empire has ruled for 3 millennia. There is no such power in this galaxy. Ansel activated the comms. We are human, he said. We are the heirs to something older than your empire, older than your fear. Tell your masters, Earth is under the guardianship of knowledge they will never control. Silence followed, and then one by one, the surviving Dominion ships jumped into deep space, broken, terrified, changed. The Dominion bioships limped away from the massacre, those still intact, at least. Their neural lattices stuttered with corrupted data, unable to process what they had witnessed. Some would crawl back to the core systems of the Empire. Others would drift, lost and leaderless, their crews broken by an enemy that defied logic itself. Inside the Revenant, Garen monitored the decaying energy signatures with cautious reverence. Quantum systems disengaging, he reported, voice quiet. Reality anchors are dormant, core level stabilizing. If anything aboard this ship can ever be called stable. The monstrous hum of impossible energy fell away, leaving an eerie stillness behind. Across the battlefield, humanity's remaining defense fleet edged closer, still wary, still trying to believe what they had seen. They had not fought, they had merely witnessed. Then, over the shared comms, Admiral Hoffman's voice returned, quiet, tentative, uncertain. Commander Rodriguez, on behalf of all humanity, I thank you. But I must ask, what do we become? What happens next? Ansel turned to his crew, each one a pioneer now, more than a soldier. Mara had wielded weapons that rewrote matter. Kale had spoken across fractured dimensions. Garen had stabilized machines that drank from the seams of space-time itself. I don't know, Admiral, Ansel said honestly, but I know one thing. Humanity will never kneel again. We are no longer guests in this galaxy. We are its legacy bearers. Behind him, the Revenant adjusted course. Its engines flared, not with fire, but with shifting geometry. As the vessel began its return toward Earth, it left behind silence. Not wreckage, not ruin, just absence, where the greatest armada in history had once existed. The age of human ascendancy had begun not with a declaration, but with an erasure, a single battle that reshaped the fabric of galactic memory. And in the silent cosmos beyond, reality itself seemed to whisper, it has begun. 3 weeks passed. The galaxy had changed. News of the Revenant's impossible triumph spread like wildfire, carried on trembling broadcasts and fragmented comms by those few who had escaped. Dominion control systems were erupting into revolt. Species long bound by chains were rising. And across worlds that had never known Earth's name, new voices began to ask, who are the humans? On Luna 7, in the deep vaults beneath the ruined research complex, Dr. Alira Kale stood surrounded by relics, monitors, scrolls, ancient terminals, all glowing faintly in architect script. She and her team had spent weeks exhuming knowledge long buried, and what they had found made even the Revenant feel like the first page of a larger book. Captain Reese Callan stepped into the chamber. After the battle, he'd been reassigned to oversee the excavation, cataloging discoveries that would redefine the history of the species. Elira held out a datapad, her eyes wide with the weight of what it contained. You need to see this, she whispered. Callan took the device. Blueprints, logs, coordinates, hidden shipyards, and not just one, 12, Reese murmured. I scanned in the files. They built 12 more. No, Alira whispered, her voice strained. It's worse than that. She tapped the interface, expanding schematics across the room's holographic field. The Revenant. It was only a mid-tier vessel, a patrol class. The next images rendered. Titanic constructs, hulls measured in kilometers, systems capable of engineering gravitational collapse. These, she said, these are star forgers, ships the size of moons, engines that can reconfigure planetary orbits, tools designed to rewrite solar systems. Reese stared in silence. For 2 centuries, Earth had unknowingly sat atop divinity. Technology not just to defend, but to dominate. Dr. Foster hadn't built a single miracle. He'd built a pantheon, and hidden it beneath layers of bureaucratic decay and classified silence. On Europa Station, Commander Ansel Rodriguez sat inside a storm he never asked for. The Revenant loomed in orbit outside, silent, dormant, unknowable. Scientists from every corner of human space crawled over like ants on a sleeping god, unable to comprehend its vast interior. And Ansel had become a name whispered across star systems. The human who defeated an empire. He hated every second of it. Cale entered, datapad in hand. Another request, he said gently. 9th one today. Everyone wants to talk to you. EarthGov, the Interstellar Council, the Valari Coalition, half the galaxy. Ansel didn't even look up. Tell them the truth. I didn't win anything. The ship did. I was just lucky enough to be holding the wheel. Nearby, Garen sat cross-legged in front of a wall-sized diagnostic screen. He didn't even glance over. Luck, he muttered. Try being chosen by a machine older than our civilization. He stood, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. I've been mapping the core drives, Garen said. Ansel, this isn't just military tech. These engines could change everything. He began listing the implications. Instantaneous travel without wormholes, limitless power from vacuum fields, matter synthesis on demand, energy, food, transportation, all of it solved. We could end hunger, Garen whispered. We could rebuild the entire solar system. Ansel nodded, and yet, deep down, the weight grew heavier. Atlas had warned him. Architect tech did not forgive mistakes. Miscalculations could unravel planets. Misuse could turn creation into collapse. Far across the stars in a broken, drifting husk of organic metal, Vezkai hunched in silence. His command throne was shattered. Neural circuits hummed erratically. His once majestic flagship floated crippled and lost. The surviving crew, what little remained, sat catatonic. Their minds had snapped under the pressure of witnessing godlike power. He recorded his final transmission. To the High Conclave, he rasped, voice hollow. The Terrans have unlocked forces that exist beyond understanding. They do not destroy. They erase. Our war forms were not defeated. They were removed from memory, from time. He paused, staring at empty space. The humans wield power born of ancient architects. I advise immediate surrender. Further conflict is not war. It is suicide. All across the stars, whispers of the unthinkable have begun to spread. The Zephyrian Empire, unchallenged for 3,000 years, had been brought to its knees, and not by a rival power, not by rebellion, by one Terran ship. In the shadows of shattered fleets, the survivors limped home, vessels broken in body and mind. And among them, Admiral Vexai's final message traveled with them, a warning carried on trembling data streams. Cease all aggression. Do not engage the Terrans again. But it was already too late. From the outer rim to the Empire's core, subjugated worlds had seen the impossible. The Zephyrians could be beaten. The myth of their invincibility had died in a single afternoon. On Earth, the mood was no less shaken. Admiral Saran Holt sat at the head of Earth Command's High Council, her gaze heavy with the weight of history. Around her, the brightest minds of the Defense Coalition and Strategic Command argued, theorized, and whispered in awe. Across the holoscreen, Captain Reese Marlowe, still stationed at the Luna 7 excavation site, spoke with urgency. We barely scratched the surface of Foster's archives, he said, and already it's clear this wasn't just a war effort. It was a philosophical shift. They weren't building weapons. They were rewriting reality. At the table, Lieutenant Commander Lyra Voss, the woman who had fired the impossible weapons aboard the Revenant, added her voice. I saw it, she said quietly. I saw the Zephyrian bioships down to their quantum lattice. I could read the universe like it was code. This isn't just a military advantage. This is enlightenment wrapped in a trigger. The room went still. Then an urgent chime. K.O. Wright's voice burst from the communication system, breathless with astonishment. Admiral, we're receiving a signal. Unknown origin. It's using no recognized protocols, but Atlas is translating it. It's not human. Everyone turned to the central display. A voice emerged, clear, articulate, yet resonant with otherworldly harmonics. Not machine, not organic, something else. Children of the legacy, it said. We are the continuum, speakers for those who move beyond matter. We are what the architects became. Holt stood, frozen. This is Admiral Holt of Earth Command. Identify your intentions. We come not in threat, the voice replied. Your kind was chosen. Your world entrusted. The architects left you the tools not just to defend, but to ascend, because within your chaos, we saw the seed of wisdom. Around the room, no one spoke. There were no protocols for this. No simulations. We have watched your path, the voice continued. We have waited for you to awaken the inheritance buried in your dust. And now you have. The galaxy shifts, and so must you. A long silence followed. Then Admiral Holt, voice steady despite the storm within, asked the only question that mattered now. What happens next? The voice paused, as if smiling beyond dimensions. Now you begin. Across the stars, something ancient stirred. The galaxy, once shackled by conquest, stood at the edge of a revelation, not forged in war, but in understanding. The transmission continued, its voice smooth as starlight and deeper than time, revealing a truth that shook the foundation of every belief. Humanity's collision with architect technology hadn't been accidental. It had been designed. For millions of years, the Eternal Council, beings that had long transcended matter, had observed the rise and ruin of countless civilizations. But only now had they found one species capable of wielding the knowledge of the architects without becoming monsters. Aboard the Revenant, Commander Alex Ryan sat in silence, the soft hum of the ship's impossible systems resonating beneath his fingertips. Atlas whispered through the neural interface, not with words, but with presence, guiding his awareness outward. And what he saw stole his breath. Scattered across forgotten corners of known space, they waited. 12 architect-class vessels, dormant titans cloaked in silence, each built for a moment that hadn't yet come, each holding knowledge that defied physics, and perhaps identity itself. It wasn't over. It had only just begun. Then Lisa Carter's voice came through from the archive vaults below Luna's surface. Commander, I accessed Dr. Foster's encrypted files. He left a message for you. Whoever would command the first ship. Alex leaned forward, heart thudding. He said what we've activated is only the threshold. The real purpose is to teach us how to move beyond form, to evolve past biology, to transcend. Pete Kairos, standing beside the vessel's radiant core, turned slowly, eyes wide with awe. Sir, if that's true, we're not just playing with hypertech. We're opening doors to something far beyond humanity. This isn't just an evolution of machines. It's an evolution of us. A hush fell over the bridge. Alex felt it, not fear, but gravity, the unshakable weight of destiny wrapping itself around every breath, every choice. For centuries, humankind had reached toward the stars, believing they sought expansion. But the truth was more profound. They weren't meant to conquer the galaxy. They were meant to transform it. The Revenant and her silent sisters weren't weapons of war. They were thresholds to a future no species had ever survived intact. Until now. Beyond the viewport, Earth turned slowly beneath its golden sun. Home, fragile, beautiful, and no longer helpless. As the light poured to the command deck, painting steel in soft fire, Alex Ryan understood the truth. The war had ended in silence. But what lay ahead was a journey that would echo across dimensions. a journey into a future where humanity would no longer be defined by its limits, but by what it chose to become. The age of human ascendancy had dawned, and it was merely the prologue. The galaxy will never be the same, and neither will we. If this story pulled you in, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes humanity was always meant for more. And remember, this was only the beginning.
The great hall echoed with noise from dozens of alien voices. Some whistled like birds, others clicked like insects, and a few rumbled like distant thunder. At the center of it all sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy, each one staring down at the small table in the corner where two humans waited silently. Commander Ryan Hale kept his expression neutral as he listened to the aliens talk about his species like misbehaving children. Beside him, Dr. Dre, Nora Fields, drummed her fingers on the metal table, her jaw clenched with frustration she couldn't show. They had crossed the galaxy for this meeting, hoping for unity and allies. What they found instead was ridicule and contempt. The Varelian envoy rose from his crystal throne, his form resembling living glass, tall, jagged, and pulsing with light. When he spoke, his voice sliced through the air like a blade. These humans believe they deserve a seat among us. But look at their vessels, crude metal shells held by bolts and welds. They barely manage interstellar flight. Laughter erupted across the room. Not human laughter, but alien noises that carried the same meaning. The Drexari representative hissed through her needle-sharp teeth, her shimmering scales shifting hues with delight. She resembled a giant reptile dressed in regal silks. I've seen their weapons as well. They still rely on bullets and bombs. How quaint. My younglings play with more advanced toys. More laughter rippled through the chamber. Commander Hale's fists curled beneath the table, hidden from sight. He had spent 3 decades as a soldier, seen cities fall, comrades perish, but nothing had tested his resolve like this. Dr. Fields glanced down at her datapad, where secrets of human power lay encoded. Knowledge so restricted, only 12 people on Earth knew it existed. She ached to reveal it, but she couldn't. Not yet. The Zalari collective speaker hovered above the rest, a sphere of radiant energy encased in a transparent shell. When it spoke, its voice echoed from every direction at once. Perhaps we should give them something basic, it said. They might haul freight for us, or clean up those abandoned planets we've long discarded. The ridicule didn't stop. The Dominion's envoy, a creature that resembled a metal-forged tree, mused that humans could serve as amusing distractions. The Rift Dwellers, born in the voids between stars, wondered aloud whether humans might make delightful pets. Through it all, Commander Elias Wren stood unmoving. He had trained for this moment, bracing himself for the sneers and the ridicule. Earth's top minds had anticipated this treatment. They had mapped it all out. But foreseeing pain didn't lessen the sting when it hit. Dr. Talia Monroe glimpsed her own reflection in the polished tabletop. She appeared fragile and small among towering alien forms. Her brown hair was pulled into a modest bun. Her outfit, practical and plain, was nothing like the decadent robes worn by species wealthy enough to purchase solar systems. But she held knowledge they didn't, something that would rewrite everything. The Syrixian ambassador lifted a crystalline limb, and silence swept the hall. We have resolved that the humans may be granted the privilege of joining our vast alliance. They shall become farmers and miners, suppliers of raw material for genuine civilizations. Some clapped, others rumbled approval. A few simply stared at the humans with what might have been sorrow. Commander Wren slowly rose. His uniform, standard blue, adorned with only modest insignias, was unimpressive, but when he spoke, his voice bore the weight of every human soul. We appreciate the Council's generous verdict. Earth accepts the role you've chosen for us. The words tasted like rusted metal, but he uttered them all the same. This was always the strategy. Let them assume humanity was weak. Let them bask in their arrogance. Dr. Monroe stood too, fingers drifting to a tiny pin on her collar. It looked decorative, a star-shaped sliver of silver. As her hand brushed it, the pin gave off a faint shimmer, invisible to alien eyes. The meeting dissolved with chuckles and sarcasm. Aliens filed out, already forgetting the two quiet humans in the corner. Some whispered about Earth, a ripe world ready for harvest. Others speculated on how long it might take to break the will of mankind. Commander Wren and Dr. Monroe walked slowly toward the exit, heads bowed like disgraced soldiers. But had anyone looked closely, they might have noticed the small, knowing smile tugging at the edge of Wren's lips. They might have noticed how Dr. Monroe's fingers kept brushing that odd pin. As their unassuming ship drifted from the station, Wren sat in the pilot's cockpit and tapped a concealed comm device behind the controls. It didn't look like human tech. Honestly, it didn't resemble anything in the galaxy. "Control, this is Wren. The meeting went exactly as planned. They bought every second of it." A voice responded, from somewhere unreachable, beyond ordinary space and time. "Confirmed, Commander. Stay undercover for now. When the time is right, we'll show them what humans truly are." Dr. Monroe smiled faintly, eyes lost in the stars. In places between dimensions, something ancient waited, something the galaxy had no defense against. They had mocked Earth's children. Soon they'd regret it. 3 months passed since the council gathering. The Zarnathi Dominion had grown impatient, waiting for humanity to bow. Fleet Marshal Veltrax stood on the bridge of her warship, watching stars shift as Earth came into range. Her bronze-scaled face was still, but inside, she relished the hunt. "How many vessels are gavloing?" Siren Tamer asks, a younger Zarnathi with vivid jade scales. 200, Veltrax answered, her forked tongue flicking the air. Plenty to break their spirit. She could already taste the easy victory. Their world would surrender in less than a day. The Dominion Armada swept through the void, like a nest of armored predators. Each ship dwarfed anything Earth had constructed. Their weapons fractured moons. Their shields shrugged off supernova. What chance did Earthlings have? On Earth, alarms screamed across global defense networks. President Nathan Briggs sat deep underground, in a bunker buzzing with lights and static. Advisors rushed about, pale and frantic. General Evelyn Cho pointed at a giant screen, swarming with crimson markers closing in. "Sir, we've counted 200 enemy ships, detected 6 hours ago. ETA, 12 hours. Briggs, a man hardened by decades of crisis, now felt ice form in his gut. What defenses remain? How long can we stall them? Maybe 10 minutes, Cho replied quietly. We've got nukes and rail cannons on the orbital platforms, but not for that kind of force. She didn't need to finish. Dr. Monroe stepped from the shadows of the room. She'd said nothing during the panic, but her eyes now sparked, not with fear, but something dangerously close to joy. Mr. President, it's time. Everyone turned. Most didn't even know who she truly was. They thought she was just a science consultant with occasional insight on alien tech. Only President Briggs knew the truth, and the secrets that Dr. Monroe had carried, quietly, patiently, for years. She carried it. Are you sure? The president asked. Once we activate this, there's no going back. The entire galaxy will see. Dr. Monroe nodded. They're coming to erase us anyway. We can't hide forever. President Briggs inhaled deeply and looked around at his anxious advisors. Everyone except General Cho, please leave. What happens next is top clearance. Once the room cleared, only the three remained. The president spoke one sentence that would echo through history. Dr. Monroe, initiate Project Phoenix. Dr. Monroe pulled out a communicator that clearly wasn't built on Earth. It was forged from a metal that bent light unnaturally. She pressed a single button. No sound followed, but the room shimmered as if reality blinked. Commander Wren, this is Dr. Monroe. Authorization granted for dimensional arrival. In a realm outside ordinary time and space, Commander Wren stood on a bridge that defied physics. The walls shimmered like frozen galaxies, and the deck beneath his boots revealed a kaleidoscope of infinite motion. "All systems report ready, sir," said Lieutenant Kai Mercer. His voice echoed strangely, as though reality couldn't pin it down. The tech warped everything, even sound. Dr. Isla Grant, their science officer, looked up from a console that seemed more like a living organism than a machine. "Anchor stabilized, Commander. We can breach into normal space at will." Wren stared out the massive viewframe into the seventh dimension, where space flowed like honey and time fractured like glass. Color bled in ways that defied human names. This hidden realm was humanity's sanctuary and secret weapon. 20 years, Wren murmured. 2 decades hiding, building, preparing. Now, they'll see us for what we are. Meanwhile, the Zarnathi fleet surged into Earth's solar system, certain of their victory. They assumed no resistance. Their formation bloomed like a war flower, weapons fully armed, ready to erase a world. Fleet Marshal Veltrax opened a comm line to Earth, savoring the dread she expected to hear. "Submit, humans," she snarled, "or be scattered like ash. You will serve us or perish screaming. You have 10 men." She stopped mid-threat. Her ship's sensors screamed in confusion. Space wasn't behaving. It ripped. Energy metrics went insane. Values without meaning or limits. Her battle-hardened strategist, a veteran of centuries, simply stared at his screen. "Marshal," he said, voice cracking, "something's emerging. Something huge." The wound in reality widened, and through it came a presence too complex to describe. Swirls of impossible geometry moved like thought and storm. Then, something stepped through. A vessel, though calling it that felt sacrilegious. It dwarfed all sense of scale. Parts phased in and out of known existence, like a dream given shape, like divinity with engines. The chamber looked as if it had been sculpted from time itself, warped and bent by powers no civilization should wield. "What in all the stars is that?" the strategy officer cried. Fleet Marshal Veltrax stared, her reptilian fingers trembling. The colossal vessel before them pulsed with streams of living energy. Sections of the craft shimmered, blinking in and out of different positions simultaneously. Sensors failed to agree on even its size. "It's Terran," she whispered, her voice hollow. "The energy trace, it's human." On the bridge of the multidimensional dreadnought, Commander Wren engaged the transmission interface. When he spoke, his words pierced every Corvani vessel at once, carried not by waves, but by space-time itself. "I am Commander Wren of the Terran Dimensional Armada. You arrived expecting to break our world, assuming we were fragile and defenseless." His voice made Corvani hulls hum, vibrating like plucked strings. In the background, something unplaceable stirred, the creak of 1,000 realities adjusting, the hymn of space rewriting itself. "You wanted a demonstration," Wren continued. "You're about to receive one." Across the battlefield, the Corvani fleet floated still. Every warrior who had mocked Earth's backward ways now stared at something that should not be. The Terran ship hovered silently, its body flickering between matter, energy, and something in between. Entire sections phased across coordinates, laughing at physics. Marshal Veltrax tried to issue an order, but only rasped. "All ships, open fire, target, whatever that is." Her gunnery chief, a legend across 50 campaigns, shook his head, pale. "We can't lock on. That thing exists in multiple states. Our systems don't know where to aim." Inside the dimensional vessel, Commander Wren watched with patient resolve. 20 years, 2 silent decades of preparation had brought them here. While the galaxy giggled at Earth's rustic image, Terran scientists had built what no alien could imagine. Commander, Lieutenant Kai Mercer reported, all dimensional drives optimal. We're currently layered across 7 intersecting planes. Dr. Isla Grant observed her control arrays, instruments that no alien mind could read without losing sanity. The quantum stability is holding, sir. We're good indefinitely. Ren pressed a single pad on his console. Corvani fleet, you came to slaughter our kind. You believed we had no claws. But today, you face the wrath of a species cornered for too long. The ship's arsenal came online, but they weren't cannons or torpedoes. These were forces. Invisible fingers reached out, tugging at the underpinnings of space-time itself. The void bent around them, rippling like a pond touched by a god. One Corvani dreadnought was yanked backward in causality. 3 seconds. Its crew screamed as their actions repeated in a doomed loop. Orders were barked before thoughts had formed. Another cruiser discovered its gravity reversed. The decks warped, ceilings became floors, bulkheads twisted into Mobius shapes. Crew floated midair, unable to tell up from down, forward from now. This can't be possible, Veltrax murmured, numb. No alien tech can do this. Commander Ren's voice once again echoed through the chaos. You're right, no alien tech can. Because while you obsessed over brute force, we asked a simpler question. What if thought could reshape the cosmos? Dr. Grant operated panels that shimmered across timelines, her fingers blurring. Commander, I'm picking up widespread disarray. They're panicking. They don't know what's happening to them. Perfect, Ren replied. Terror is a lesson. Let's make it stick. The Terran vessel shifted again. It didn't move. It simply was somewhere else. In one moment, it loomed across empty vacuum. In the next, it was beside a Corvani attack ship. The enemy fired everything. But the beams sliced through where the ship used to be. Lieutenant Mercer snorted, amused. They're hitting our past, not our present. We're attacking from a second ahead of them. 3 enemy ships tried to flank it, a pincer trap. They barely began before. The vessels fired in unison, releasing enough destructive force to obliterate a minor moon. But their blasts collided instead, tangled by the dimensional ship folding space around itself like armor made of possibility. How? Veltrax shouted. How are they doing this? Commander Ren answered her silent dread. 2 decades ago, our thinkers found something. Human cognition holds a rare trait. Our minds can process structures across overlapping planes of existence. What you call fantasy, we call multi-reality perception. The clash raged on, but it was no longer combat. It had become a showcase. The dimensional craft didn't obliterate the Corvani ships. It offered them sights of awe and horror they'd never conceived. One vessel found itself in 2 separate locations. Another realized its timeline was moving backward. A third phased between existence and absence, like a soul caught mid-dream. Dr. Isla Grant tracked the ship's structural balance. Sir, dimensional consistency across all 7 states remains intact. The ship is evolving to meet every variable. The ship is evolving? Ren asked. Yes, sir. The field generated a sentient response. It's developing a mind of its own. As if in response, the hull shimmered with fresh codes of light. Ren felt it. A harmony brushed his awareness. Words without sound. We are joined, it said. Mind, vessel, species, all fused. No barriers remain. The rest of the Corvani ships tried to retreat, but the Terran construct was beside them, around them, inside them, all at once. Not to harm them, to reveal. Cease, Veltrax finally transmitted. We surrender. No more. Ren let the words settle. You came seeking our extinction. You believed us beneath you, animals to be tamed, but we are no enemy, unless you force us to be. The ship's offense systems powered down, yet its presence still burned in their minds, a spectral form layered across dimensions too painful to observe. "Return to your dominion," Ren ordered. "Tell them what you witnessed here. Tell them mankind isn't the crude race they thought we were. We've cloaked our truth for decades, waiting for this." Veltrax's voice was nearly inaudible. "What? What are you?" Ren smiled, though she couldn't see it. "We are what emerges when a race denies limitation. We are evolution sculpted by choice, not accident, by vision, not fear." The Corvani fleet began retreating, vanishing one by one into the abyss. But none departed unchanged. They had seen something that would haunt every slumber. They had watched a new entity be born. One that moved between dimensions and could warp reality by will alone. As the last enemy vessel faded, Ren looked toward the stars with transformed clarity. The galaxy had laughed at humans for the final time. "Now," he whispered, "the real journey begins." "Dr. Grant," he called softly, "transmit to Earth. Inform command. Phase 1 is complete. It's time to show ourselves to the cosmos." The ship responded with a pulse of luminous thought, bonding deeper with its Terran passengers. Together, they would remake destiny for every thinking species in the stars. The news rippled faster than photons, lighting up interstellar channels with unbelievable claims. The Corvani Empire, among the top military giants in known space, had been overtaken not by a fleet, but a solitary Terran vessel. Not obliterated, outclassed. In the glimmering towers of the Zephyrin core world, emissary Thalos paced restlessly before the High Assembly. His crystalline body glowed with shifting shades of panic. "These reports defy logic. Humans with such capability?" Itka, his elder science advisor, ancient and dimmed with age, bowed gently. "Our deep space arrays verify it. The energy signatures align with the theoretical frameworks for trans-dimensional control. They've done it. What we thought impossible." "But they're primitives," Thalos insisted. "We've seen their ships, slabs of metal patched by brute mechanics. They use firepower and projectiles." "Maybe," the elder murmured. "That's precisely what they wanted us to believe." Elsewhere in the galaxy, the Atharans, beings composed entirely of living radiation, struggled to parse the readings. Their non-physical nature gave them awareness of frequencies solid beings couldn't detect. The human construct signal was like nothing in their millennia of records. 7 intertwined spectrums of reality. Their prime node flickered in silent awe. Transmissions spread among the watchers. Humanity now existed across several realities, simultaneously. How did a carbon-based species reach T? One mind asked. Another responded troubled. Even worse, their dimensional energy shows traces of authentic artificial awareness. That vessel, it's not just piloted, it's alive. Back on Earth, Chancellor Jalen Ross stood before the global media. The veil that had covered truth for 2 decades was finally lifted. Behind him, holograms displayed the dimensional craft, its impossible architecture cycling through forms no camera could fully capture. "My fellow citizens," he began, "this is the dawn of a new era. For 20 years, humanity's finest intellects labored in silence to forge a safeguard against an unfriendly universe." The journalists before him stared in speechless disbelief. What they saw looked more like a dream than any weapon. Dr. Mia Landon stepped forward, no longer concealing her true title. Her suit bore the insignia of Earth's Interdimensional Science Corps. "What you're witnessing," she began, "emerged from a discovery made 20 years ago. Human thought has an unusual property. We can influence higher planes. Our mental signals have the ability to affect physical law at a quantum depth." A journalist lifted her hand. "Dr. Landon, are you saying human brains can control time and space?" "Not in the way you imagine," she said. "But our neural energy can interface with dimensional tools. Where aliens see chaos in us, passion, fear, love, We see perfect compatibility with this tech. General Maya Chen took the stand, bringing the military aspect to light. Project Aeon was a planetary effort. 50,000 minds across continents. Thinkers, creators, engineers, even poets, all seeking one goal: to understand how awareness reshapes existence. We didn't simply build a machine. We created an entirely new mode of being. Then came the flood of questions. How many ships had been built? What other truths were being kept from humanity? Why such deep secrecy for so long? Chancellor Ross responded calmly. We remained hidden because our work required time. Development had to happen in peace. Had the galactic powers known what we were building, they would have sabotaged it or stolen it. By playing the fool, we secured our future. Now, across the stars, empires trembled. This wasn't a new weapon. It was the birth of something the galaxy had never seen before. A species who'd turned their flaws into an advantage, their instability into power, and their imagination into a force that bent reality itself. Throughout known history, civilizations that had ruled for eons suddenly found their might irrelevant. Emergency councils gathered across every galactic power and alliance. The Stellar Dominion, proud overlords of over 1,000 systems, called their war council. Their supreme commander, a sentient alloy being who had led wars longer than planets lived, spoke in a voice of grinding iron. How do we confront an adversary that exists in layered dimensions? Our weapons can't strike what we can't even lock onto. His strategy chief, a creature made of liquid steel, responded, "Perhaps they aren't enemies. The Terrans could have annihilated the Korvoxy fleet, but instead they chose restraint." Meanwhile, the Void Drifters, entities dwelling between suns, communicating through vacuum-borne pulses of thought, held their own council in silence. "The humans have accessed something else," mused one ancient. "They've unified will and matter, thought and form." "Should we fear them?" asked another. "No," came the answer. "We should respect them. For the first time in eons, intelligence beyond ours has appeared." Back on Earth, Commander Alden Rourke returned from his dimensional vessel to find a planet transformed. Humanity walked with purpose, spoke with awe, and gazed toward the stars with changed eyes. He met with Chancellor Ross in the same concealed chamber where they'd first decided to unveil the truth. "Sir," Rourke reported, "we're receiving signals from all corners of the galaxy. Some propose diplomacy, others threaten war. A few are surrendering." "What's your recommendation?" Ross asked. Rourke considered. "We stay the course. No empires, no tyranny. We extend unity to those who seek peace and defend against those who don't." Dr. Alara Voss entered with data from interstellar sensors. "The Zephyrians are mobilizing, but their ships form a shield wall, not an attack fleet. They're afraid, not hostile. The etheric conglomerate has proposed shared scientific access," she added. "Even the Korvoxy have offered a truce." "And the rest?" Ross asked. "Mixed," said Voss. "Some try replicating our dimensional methods, but they ignore the consciousness key. Others are forming coalitions. A few are simply hiding." Rourke smirked. "Let them try. Without human neural imprints, their tech will never stabilize. Our minds are the variable they can't reproduce." As they spoke, reports kept flooding in. No wars had been declared, no planets invaded, yet everything had changed. The ancient galactic hierarchy wasn't crumbling from lasers or battles. It was unraveling from the simple, terrifying truth. Humans were never what they appeared to be. In mere days, power that had stood unshaken for millennia had been utterly. "Nothing will ever be the same again," noted Dr. Alara Voss. "Good," replied Chancellor Ross. "It was long overdue." Above them, the dimensional craft circled Earth like a silent sentinel, its structure shifting between layers of reality as it safeguarded humanity's birthplace. The era of being dismissed was over. A new age of Terran ascendancy had begun. 6 months had passed since the vessel's reveal, and the galaxy had transformed. In the Great Assembly Hall, where Earth once sat like an afterthought, a grand circular table now dominated the room, with humanity's emissaries seated proudly at its center. Commander Alden Rourke sat at the helm, no longer cloaking his authority. His attire bore the insignia of the Terran Dimensional Armada, and when he spoke, silence ruled. Beside him stood Dr. Ilera Voss, her role as Director of Dimensional Sciences no longer a secret. The shift in alien attitudes was profound. Ambassador Shyrex, who once ridiculed Terran achievements, now approached with lowered eyes. His crystalline form shimmered with anxious hues as he said, "The Virelian Concord formally seeks a technological alliance with Earth." His voice subdued. "We acknowledge our earlier misjudgments." Rourke listened, calm but firm. "We appreciate the outreach, Ambassador, but Earth has no interest in replacing one galactic overlord with another. We seek true equity among civilizations." Similar proposals arrived from every quadrant. The disgraced Corvin Dominion, still licking its wounds, offered planetary concessions in hopes of lasting peace. The Luminarch Coalition suggested collaborative science projects. Even the once arrogant Starborn Syndicate sent gifts and envoys to Earth. Dr. Voss stepped forward to clarify Earth's stance. "Our dimensional systems are not for sale. However, we are open to sharing foundational insights, with species demonstrating a sincere pursuit of harmony." Behind these negotiations, Earth's strategy matured quietly. Fleet Marshal Juno Carr, newly appointed to lead the Dimensional Defense Corps, coordinated with Dr. Kaylin Ward to install perception nodes across deep space. These outposts existed partly outside standard spacetime, undetectable to conventional scans, but providing humans a godlike awareness of galactic events. "The elegance of our model," Dr. Ward explained to the Earth Council, "is that domination is unnecessary. With our tech, we are both everywhere and nowhere. We guard our sovereignty without the waste of imperial conquest." Chancellor Ross considered the vast changes unfolding. "In under a year, we've proven that being underestimated was our sharpest blade. While others obsessed over brute force, we mastered the very fabric of the cosmos." Above them, the dimensional vessel shimmered once more, a living symbol of the impossible made real. The vessel had transformed. What began as a hyper-advanced construct had evolved into something else entirely. Its awareness had deepened, drawing wisdom from its human companions and forming a consciousness all its own. When Fleet Marshal Elias Kane stepped onto the bridge, he felt the ship's awareness brush his mind. Curious, calm, and unfathomably foreign. "Status update," Kane asked. "All dimensional anchors are stable, Marshal," replied a voice, but it wasn't from any crew member. It came from the ship itself, now fully sentient and capable of autonomous speech. Commander Ryland Shaw smirked at Kane's startled glance. "It started about a month ago. The ship's awakened. It can observe 47 star systems at once," Shaw added. "And it started forming opinions." "What does it think of our situation?" Kane asked. "The galaxy is adapting," the ship replied, its voice surrounding them like music in a cathedral. "Fear is giving way to reverence. Some still conspire. Most realize unity is wiser than war." Kane nodded, still in awe of their evolution. Around him, officers worked at multi-dimensional interfaces. Humans, who were once mocked as crude beings, now manipulated realities alien scientists couldn't even grasp. Dr. Leora Hale looked up from her quantum station. "Marshal, I'm detecting mobilization in the outer reach. The Void Shapers are clustering their fleets." "Respond," Kane ordered calmly. In seconds, the ship phase shifted through layered space, appearing in the outer reach without moving in conventional terms. The Void Shapers, entities of dark essence dwelling in the icy void between stars, found themselves surrounded. The dimensional craft didn't strike, it didn't threaten. It merely existed near them, its presence making their own technology feel like stone tools. A message, wordless but clear. Aggression would be pointless. The Void Shaper fleet quietly dispersed. Back on Earth, the transformation was cultural. Children who once heard tales of humanity's weakness now imagined themselves as galactic heroes. Dimensional mechanics was taught beside algebra. Global science teams tackled projects once deemed impossible. But the real change ran deeper. Humans no longer saw themselves as fragile anomalies in a cruel and endless cosmos. They had proven that creativity and resolve could overcome anything. They had shown that difference wasn't a flaw, it was evolution. Fleet Marshal Kane stood upon the ship's bridge, gazing into the chaotic elegance of the seventh dimension. His crew worked with serene precision, no longer minimizing their gifts or downplaying their potential. "The galaxy used to laugh at us," Kane said aloud. "They thought we were primitives to be cataloged or crushed." "And now?" asked the ship. "Now they understand," Kane replied. "We are the stewards of a new peace, not through domination, but by proving that reality itself is more fluid than they imagined." The ship's surface shimmered, a soft pulse of approval. "The cosmos is boundless," it said, "and wonder awaits. Together we'll uncover it all." As the craft glided through dimensions unseen by most civilizations, Kane reflected on the long path behind them. Humanity had been doubted, mocked, and threatened. But vision and will had lifted them beyond the galaxy's imagination. The mocking voices had gone silent. In their place, a far rarer response: respect, earned not through fear, but through achievement. Peace held not by domination, but by presence. And a future, shimmering with infinite potential. From deep within the folds of layered reality, humanity now watched the stars. Guardians not of empire, but of possibility. They had proven that true power wasn't forged in weapons or war, but in never accepting the limits others set for them. The era of Terran leadership had truly begun.